I am overjoyed that Biden has won the election. Like many Americans and most of the world, Donald Trump has been a dangerous, dysfunctional, disruptive, and destructive president. Most countries disliked him. America's relations with the world will improve under Biden. The big question is whether the conditions of Americans will improve, especially for the bottom 50% who have seen their incomes and wealth slide in the past 30 years. Many Americans believe that Biden's election represents a new dawn in America. The Biden administration will fix America's structural problems, the good old times will come back, and this may well happen. America has reinvented itself before, yet the odds are that nothing fundamental will change. Sadly, the plutocracy is likely to remain a plutocracy. The easiest way to reduce inequality in America is to raise revenue from income taxes, then spend it wisely to elevate the living standards of the bottom 50%. This does not mean imposing new taxes on the rich. It only means restoring the taxes that existed in the past. Here are two examples. The first involves the wealthy hedge fund managers who have made billions from their investments. In the past, like working class Americans, they paid income taxes up to the maximum amount of 37%. However, through clever lobbying, the hedge fund managers were able to lobby for their income to be taxed as capital gains. Hence, they paid the lower capital gains rate of 20% instead of 37%. By any moral or ethical standards, it is simply unfair for rich hedge fund managers who earn billions in income to pay lower tax rates than working class Americans. The second example comes from the tax reductions made by President Donald Trump in his Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. The publicly stated goal of the 2017 Tax Act was to benefit ordinary Americans. Instead, once again, the wealthy benefited more. As one analyst observed, quote, as a result of both the personal and business income tax cuts, households making between $500,000 and $1 million will see their after-tax income rise by an average of 5.2%. Households making less than $50,000, the median income is $61,372 in the US, see only a 0.6% increase. Will this be reversed? Let's wait and see. There's no doubt that a vast majority of Americans are in favor of higher taxes for those with ultra-high annual incomes and wealth. A survey by CNBC found that, quote, fully 60% of millionaires support Senator Elizabeth Warren's plan for taxing the wealth of those who have more than $50 million in assets. Polls show that a majority of Americans also back a wealth tax. But the support from millionaires, some of whom would presumably pay the tax, shows that some millionaires are willing to accept higher taxes amidst growing concern over inequality and soaring fortunes of the rich. While 88% of Democrats support the wealth tax, 62% of independents support it, along with 36% of Republicans. Even the upper tier of millionaires, those worth more than $5 million, support a wealth tax with 2/3 in favor, unquote. In theory, in a democracy, when the vast majority of people want a certain outcome, it should happen. Sadly, it doesn't. As Marvin Zonis says, quote, "Congressional action on gun legislation, sugar subsidies, policies towards Israel, drug pricing, and countless other issues is best explained by the financing of political campaigns and not by the political preferences of ordinary voters or even of members of Congress," unquote. Let me add 2 examples of how money creates distorted outcomes and hurts ordinary Americans. As we all know, healthcare costs in America are very high. Ordinary Americans would benefit from lower costs for drugs. Yet the pharmaceutical companies have spent millions on lobbies who persuaded Congress to pass legislation that prevents the government from negotiating lower prices for drugs paid for by government programs. Paul Krugman wrote on May 12, 2018, quote, "So Donald Trump broke another promise. He did not, after all, empower Medicare to negotiate lower drug prices. Instead, he took money from drug lobbies, appointed them to key positions, and announced a plan that sent drug stocks soaring. I'm sure you're shocked," unquote. In a later column, May 17, 2018, Krugman concluded, quote, "America pays far more for drugs than any other major nation, and there's no good reason we should. Basically, when it comes to drugs, we are big pharma's sucker of last resort," unquote. American people are also in favor of stronger gun control laws. As the distinguished American journalist Elizabeth Drew observed, quote, "Polls showed that 92% of the public supported closing loopholes in the requirements of background checks, which at present don't include examinations of individuals purchasing firearms at gun shows privately from another individual or online, and that 62% supported a ban on high-capacity magazines. It was hard to ignore the emotional appeal of the shattered parents who come to Washington to plead their case. Yet, even in the wake of Sandy Hook, the US Senate voted down 2 measures to tighten gun control laws," unquote. There is absolutely no doubt that the actions taken by the US Congress in cutting taxes for the wealthy, increasing prices of pharmaceutical products, and avoiding gun control do not reflect the wishes of the American people. Yet, they cannot be overturned. They seem to have a certain kind of legitimacy. How was this legitimacy obtained? The answer, once again, is money. 3 professors in Columbia University, Hertel Fernandez, Scotch-Bowl, and Sklar, provided a study of how money was cleverly used to promote ideas and agendas that benefited the wealthy. As they said, quote, "When plutocratic collectives impose new agendas on political organizations seeking to attract financial resources, the funders reshape routines, goals, and centers of power in US politics well beyond the budgetary impact of particular grants," unquote. Their use of the term plutocratic collectives is very telling. It confirms that a major industry has been built up in America to support the continuation of plutocracy in America. In short, the election of Joe Biden, while heartwarming and encouraging, is not likely to end plutocracy in America. Hence, it will not change the fundamental competitive disadvantage America faces in competing with China. By contrast, as we will see in the next 2 videos, China is becoming more and more meritocracy.